Dana White just dropped the card. Tsarukyan versus Hooker, Belal versus Ian Garry. This could be the best fight night of the year. So let's break it down. If this is your first time seeing my channel, I'm Wyatt. This is Fight Society. Let's get into it. UFC Qatar goes down on November 22nd, and the main event has been announced by Dana White as being Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker, which very well could decide the #1 contender at 155 pounds. Now, Arman Tsarukyan has not fought since April of 2024, where he beat Charles Oliveira via split decision at UFC 300. And Dan Hooker has not fought since August of 2024, when he beat Machado Garry, but he is on a 3-fight winning streak. The co-main event is former champion coming off of his loss to now champion Jack Della Maddalena, Belal Muhammad, going up against Machado Garry, who is coming off of his win over Carlos Prates in Kansas City in May. Now, both of these could be #1 contender fights in their respective divisions, but let's get into it. First off, the stakes of Tsarukyan versus Hooker. This very well could decide who fights Ilia Topuria, not next, but fight after next, because we have either Justin Gaethje or Paddy Pimblett is going to get a title fight against Topuria. Given that these two guys are booked, Tsarukyan's not getting a title shot, so it's going to be Paddy Pimblett or Justin Gaethje, most likely going up against Ilia Topuria in January as the first event on the Paramount deal. Now, Arman Tsarukyan was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev for the title back at UFC 311 in January of this year, nearly 10 months ago, and he pulled out due to back issues. It turned out to be a weight cut problem, as verified personally by Dana White. Many people had talked about Arman Tsarukyan not being able to go right back into a title fight after essentially missing weight and pulling out on 24 hours notice against Islam. So here he is with a fight booked against Dan Hooker. This is the #1 contender fight for both of these guys. The winner of this will face the winner of Topuria versus his next opponent. The actual fight itself, if we're being real, I know Dan Hooker's a dog. I know that Dan Hooker finds a way to win even through severe injuries, getting rocked badly, broken arm in the middle of a fight, still coming back and winning. But he's just simply not as good as Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan has no need to fight. In my opinion, his motivation is relatively low because he comes from such a rich family. He literally does not need the money. He does not need the money. He's been driving a Rolls Royce and wearing a Rolex since before the UFC. But with that said, he does come to play or come to fight every single time that he shows up. When he actually makes it to the cage, he shows up every single time. Tsarukyan versus Gamrot, I thought he won one of the highest level grappling fights we've ever seen. He KO'd Beneil Dariush in seconds. He beat Charles Oliveira. I know it was a split decision, but he did beat Charles Oliveira fair and square. I had it 2-1. Here he is against Dan Hooker, who one is not the best grappler in the world, if I'm just being honest and polite about it. But frankly, he's just not that talented all around. His game, Dan Hooker's game, is taking damage and dogging out this fight. And the times that he gets beat is when someone is one, more of a dog than him, like Dustin Poirier, for example, or if someone's just flat out more skilled than him. Arman Tsarukyan is very well-rounded, very explosive, younger, doesn't have a bunch of damage and, wear and tear on his chin and body like Dan Hooker. I have to go with Arman Tsarukyan by like an easy decision here, like 49-46. I don't see him getting a finish. It is Dan Hooker, but like 49-46, 50-45, where Dan Hooker has like one round where he really musters up a good fight back in Arman Tsarukyan's direction, but he's just not good enough, not well-rounded enough, not fast enough, not explosive enough to beat Arman Tsarukyan, in my opinion. I know Arman Tsarukyan, a lot of people don't like him because he's kind of like this, as Paddy Pimblett would say, posh boy. I know a lot of people don't like him for that, but he is a much better fighter than Dan Hooker, and he is going to win this fight. I'm 99% convinced that Tsarukyan wins this fight fairly easily. The only thing that is on Dan Hooker's side is the activity, because they've both been out for over a year, but Tsarukyan for a little bit longer, and so the ring rust could be a factor. I know Arman Tsarukyan has had like 3 or 4 grappling matches in 2025, which could help him, but they've still both been out of the cage. So for me, Arman Tsarukyan faster, more athletic, better on the feet and the ground. I hate to say it, but better in all facets of the game. I got a 49-46 decision for Arman Tsarukyan. Great fight, and this will get Arman to Ilia if Ilia gets through his next fight. And here we have the co-main event, unspecified as to whether it's 3 or 5 rounds. I think that both of these guys would prefer 5 rounds given their fight styles, but we have Machado Garry and Belal Muhammad, the former champion, Belal Muhammad, getting his first fight since losing the belt to Jack Della Maddalena back in May. And then we have Ian Machado Garry, who also fought in May or April against Carlos Prates. Prates almost had him out of there late, but he did win the fight pretty, I don't want to say easily because he almost got finished, but he was ahead. That's what I'll say. He was the more skilled guy. Prates was getting frustrated. The head kicks landing on the arms over and over again that Ian Garry was throwing really slowed down the punching power and defense of Carlos Prates. Quick break. If you're loving this video and you want more from Fight Society, click that join button down below to become a channel member today, where you'll get access to members only live streams, behind the scenes vlogs, and all the unfiltered stuff that we don't post to the main channel. Back to the video. And that's why Ian Garry won the fight. I know Prates has bounced back with a KO over Jeff Neal since, but Ian Garry is a very talented fighter. He's bigger and rangier than Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad, after the Jack Della Maddalena fight, I just don't see him being able to beat a taller striker, especially one like Ian Garry, who's very well-rounded in his ground game as well, plays that distance very well. Great jiu-jitsu. He took Shavkat's back, almost submitted Shavkat late in their fight. Ian Garry is better than Belal Muhammad and younger and bigger. So I do lean towards Ian Machado Garry in this fight. It's just a matter of how is Ian Garry going to fight? Is he going to put those combos, 1-2 body shot, 1 calf kick, 1-2 laser head kick, following the cross like he's done before? Or is he going to fight that kind of like he did in the Jeff Neal fight where he was just on the back foot peppering that jab out there? Belal will win those rounds on points. If all he's doing is getting jabbed and having to shoot double legs, Belal's going to win those rounds on points. Ian Garry needs that aggressive style, not always backing up. Basically, the style that he took to the Prates fight is what's going to win him this fight. If it's the style that he took into his fight with Jeff Neal, he might lose this one by a decision, especially if it's a 3-round fight and he doesn't have time to mount offense as the fight goes on. Both of these guys being former 5-round fighters in main events and title fights means that if this is a 3-round fight, they're going to push the pace a lot more. And I think that that's really going to lead to Ian Garry landing more big shots in exchanges and as Belal comes in. And so I think we get a Ian Garry schooling Belal Muhammad to a 29-28 decision. Actually, no, 30-27. I think he stays on the outside, will push forward every once in a while, but will exit outwardly, not straight forward and back. That's what tends to cost these guys that fight the Dagestani style of wrestling. I know Belal is not Dagestani, but the guys that back up on a straight line like Alex Pereira, Charles Oliveira at times too, they get taken down by that Dagestani wrestling. Whereas the guys that exit at angles, cut off the cage, don't allow the cage to get cut off, keep their back off the fence, such as Jack Della Maddalena and Ian Garry, make a lot harder fight for Belal Muhammad. And so really, in my opinion, this is Ian Machado Garry getting not an easy fight because it's a former champion, but a very winnable fight to get back into the title picture, because this will get him up there, possibly against the winner of JDM and Islam or against the winner of Prates and Leon Edwards. Either one of those guys could get a title shot, or 170's popping. We still haven't heard about Shavkat Rakhmonov. There are a lot of fights to make at 170 and at 155. We got this one announcement in the main event, and then we got Beneil Dariush and Benoit Saint-Denis added to New York in November. But 170 and 155 have been under a lot of sharp eyes from the UFC fan base for the ranked fighters not being booked. But we're starting to get some motion. It looks like a lot of it's going to happen in November and December of this year and get these title pictures sorted out. We still need to know who Ilya is fighting, and at least now we have an idea that it's not Arman Tsarukyan. So I have Tsarukyan 49-46 decision and Machado Garry winning 30-27 on the cards. Now, I think there's a chance that Belal gets knocked out by Ian Garry, and I think there's a chance that Dan Hooker can just dog his way through some sort of TKO in the midst of a harsh round, find his way to get a KO or a TKO towards the end of the fight after getting beat on. But I know there's those wild card possibilities, but it is still going to be Ian Garry and Arman Tsarukyan in my book. And one thing I do have to say about Ian Garry is that obviously, bit of a weird guy when it comes to his lifestyle choices. I know a lot of people talk about his marriage. last name, all these different things, his relationship with his wife's ex-husband, all of that. Whatever, man. That's weird stuff. That's weird stuff that he's going to have to deal with as time goes by. Him as a fighter, he's gained my respect a lot because he takes every short notice fight. He took Shavkat on short notice. He took Prates on short notice. And now he's fighting a former champion, not on short notice, but on 7 weeks notice, basically, which is not the longest. But Ian Garry earns my respect fight by fighting tough guys on short notice, performing well on short notice, and getting wins like he did against Carlos Prates. So even though he's a weird guy, he has me blocked on Instagram, I still have a lot more respect for Ian Garry than I did about a year and a half ago. So shout out to him. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of the co-main event and the main event for UFC Qatar? The UFC is doubling down on their ventures into these, I guess you could say, oil-rich countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. They're dumping a lot of money into combat sports and trying to boost their tourism. And you can even see right here, visit Qatar right there. So trying to boost their tourism. And, you know, the UFC is getting deeply embedded with the White House and with these very rich kingdoms overseas. So you guys, let me know your thoughts on that down below. Do you want more from Fight Society? Like and subscribe below this video and click the join button to become a channel member today to get access to behind the scenes vlogs and members only live streams.